Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again tonight. We have a special treat tonight to introduce fathers. In the healthcare system, so often during pregnancy, all the attention is provided to mom, and fathers are kind of pushed to the side or pushed to the back, and yet they have such a critical role. Do you know that the research shows us that even though as Black families and Black fathers deal with a lot of obstacles, that they are 70% more engaged with their children in regard to helping them with homework and taking them to activities than white fathers. So it's the other thing too, when women are pregnant, when fathers are involved, that they are 1.5 times more likely to start prenatal care in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy than when fathers are not involved. So tonight we have the delight of being able to hear from an organization in Virginia called Dad2Dad, and Mr. Michael Jones will be the person who will tell us more about that, and I'm going to bring him on in now. So welcome. Let me give you some background on Mr. Jones. Mr. Michael Jones Sr. is a married father of 3 and an associate minister at Union United Church of Christ in Norfolk, Virginia. Mr. Jones earned his undergraduate degree from the Ethelyn R. Strong School of Social Work at Norfolk State University, and his Master of Divinity in Theology from the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology at Virginia Union University. He developed his passion for serving the fathers of Hampton Roads while employed at the UP Center in both their Responsible Fatherhood and Strengthening Fathers programs, where he facilitated both fatherhood and healthy relationships groups. Prior to and during his employment with this center, he also served as a trained life coach to fathers between the ages of 16 and 24, what such a vulnerable age, and who had recently returned to the community after a period of incarceration. Michael also served 2 years as the coordinator of a Father's Footprint, the Fatherhood Support Division of the Healthy Start Loving Steps Start Home Visiting Program in partnership with Eastern Virginia Medical School. During this period of service in the partnership with Eastern Virginia Medical School, he co-chaired and facilitated the Loving Steps Fatherhood Symposium of 2021. He is a nationally certified parent educator for the Parents as Teachers program through the UP Center. He holds the distinction of being the first ever male parent educator in the 19-year history of the UP Center's affiliation with the Parents as Teachers program. On April 1st, 2023, he began his current position as the UP Center's first dad engagement specialist. How about that? Dad2Dads facilitator and Dads and Doulas co-facilitator. Through this position, the UP Center will improve Black and Latinx maternal health outcomes and decrease the infant mortality rate in those communities through educational and support programs designed to increase prenatal and postnatal father engagement. Mr. Jones, wow. We're so happy to have you here. I would love for you to take the time to give us some more information about the Dad2Dad program and the group and what you're doing to really help out dads to father more. And, you know, there's always this great desire to be the best dad you can possibly be. So I'd love to hear more about the Dad2Dad group.
So thank you for having me. It is a privilege and an honor to be able to have this discussion with you. Through the work that the UP Center has committed itself to, as you stated, we are really concerned with the maternal health outcomes that exist in Black and Brown families in our community. If we're being honest, we know that the major component of these maternal health outcomes is the legacy of slavery and racism that plays itself out in the medical profession. And so we want to make
Yes.
sure that we're able to address it. Significantly, before I answer your question, I believe we talked about this previously. The single biggest contributor to this is race, such that it doesn't matter if it's an African American woman born in the United States, if it's an Afro-Brazilian woman born overseas, if it's Afro-French, if they come into the United States and they identify according to phenotype as Black or African American, then the chances that they're going to have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy delivery and deliver a healthy baby go down significantly
Yes.
because of medical racism. And so the Dad Engagement Services program through the Up Center came about in our effort to affect positively the maternal health outcomes in our community. And I must say that I want to give a lot of credit to our organization, the Up Center, for putting us in a position to where we could call out what the actual problem is. A lot of programs, when they are designed to help families such as ours in the community, they use a lot of code words, but we're actually able to say that our intent is to improve the maternal health outcomes of Black and brown families in our community, because these are the ones that are significantly impacted and the disparities touch them. And so the work that we're doing here at the Up Center in Southampton Roads is threefold. Not only our Dad2Dads group, but we also have a wonderful program called Dads2Doulas. And then we have the opportunity, and I'll share with you a little bit more about that. We also have the opportunity to work with fathers one-on-one. So we have the Dad2Dad group, which is a program designed to provide support, education, and encouragement for fathers. Then we have our Dads2Doulas program, which is to give education to new and expecting fathers. And then we have our one-on-one mentoring program, so that I'm able to travel our region and speak to fathers face-to-face in their homes or interact with them via Zoom or telephone or text message to provide whatever education, support, and through my social work background, case management skills, to help them either to get on their feet or to sustain themselves. For our Dad2Dad group, and this is also something that I think is significant when we look at policy, and I know you know a lot of information about policy when it comes to how the United States deals with healthcare. Policy-wise, very often you'll see grants are typically limited to a few zip codes. You'll be very lucky if you have 2 to 6 zip codes, or you may get a city or two. Our organization wanted to take a regional approach. And so the Hampton Roads area that I live in, we typically call the 7 cities of Hampton Roads, which is the Peninsula, Hampton and Newport News, and then the South Side, which is Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach, and Suffolk. And so in originating this program and trying to have an innovative approach to the maternal health crisis, we developed a grant that allowed us to touch all 5 of the South Side cities. Not only are we able to touch all 5 of the South Side cities, but we recognize in 2023 that families look very different. And so we didn't limit ourselves to fathers in terms of biological fathers, but we're able to provide education, support, and case management to father figures. So here we are, an organization that is able to reach fathers and father figures in 5 different cities through targeted engagement. Having the opportunity to have a conversation with you actually falls right after our Dad2Dad group. So we had 11 or 12 men in the room and on Zoom discussing fatherhood and what the challenges that they saw that fathers face, how we might provide support to each other in terms of our mental health and our physical health, how we might be better accountability partners for each other so that we can be fathers that are able to produce healthy children, because we know that the family is a microcosm of the community. And so if we in our homes are producing healthy children, then we're also facilitating the development of healthy communities. And that is the focus of the Dad2Dads group. And then I'll give you some more information, if you don't mind, about how we use that information that is distributed in our Dads2Doulas group. So I have the pleasure of working with Mrs. Deborah Carlos, and she's our resident doula here at the Up Center. And once a month on the second Saturday of each month, we meet with new and expecting fathers. And so, being graced with her brilliance and her intelligence, I'm able to take the information that she imparts with myself, with the fathers for our dads and doulas groups. And then we have a coach's corner each session with our Dad2Dad group so that we can share that information. Even though they may be fathers of older children or veteran fathers, we're using positive peer pressure so that each of the fathers are sharing these developmental stages and developmental topics and information about pregnancy, information about breastfeeding, information about advocacy that you would give to a new father. They're sharing with the men and fathers in network. And so I think it's a noble task. It's hard work, but it's definitely necessary so that we don't have any more Black and brown mothers having difficult pregnancies, dying during childbirth or after, and also that they can have healthy deliveries so they can have healthy babies.
So that is a plate full of what you're doing. And it's so exciting that you are working not only with younger fathers, but also older fathers. And boy, what kind of great support that can be one to the other. I'd be interested. I read an article that was published in 2020. It looked at 12 African American fathers, and there were a few themes that came out. One is that fathers felt that they were the rock, that they're the rock. It'd be interesting to hear how the dads think of this. That they also felt that faith was a big thing for them, that they are, have situations that are difficult, but they did depend upon their faith, that they felt that they wanted to know everything. And oftentimes, I know when I worked as a midwife early in the days where they didn't even let dads participate, we had to have dads go through a childbirth education class for them to even be able to participate in the birth of their child. But things have moved a whole lot. But one thing that came out of the study is dads want to know everything. They want to know everything that's going on. And then at the same time, they felt that that because of the racism in the system, because of the type of insurance that they had, that they felt at times that they were kind of guinea pigs in the system, that they're not getting what they need. And I would be interested in hearing what are some of the things that the dads bring up that they feel. It'd be interesting to know, does this is a research study with only 12 dads, but does this reflect some of the things that you are hearing from the fathers in your group? And also, what are those things that the dads that stand out?
It's very interesting. I was not aware of that study, but I can attest through anecdotal evidence that is definitely an issue, or these are issues that have been brought up in the group and brought up in conversations with fathers in the community. The flip on the idea of men being the rock is you can feel an undercurrent now, both in my group and in my conversations with fathers in the community. There's an undercurrent of rejection of that ideology in terms of being the rock, because men and fathers are beginning to understand how toxic it can be if their only role and their only way that they see themselves is as a rock or as a strong support or as a protector or a provider. That the imagery of what they see a man and a father is, which we know comes from our families, comes from our community, comes from our peer circle, and comes has done a poor job of developing men who are able to clearly articulate and understand what they're feeling, right? And so they're saying that it is important to see themselves and be seen as a whole person, and a whole person who is healthy so that they can father. We're also seeing a strong sense of loneliness and isolation because a lot of men grow up without consistently present positive male role models. And then there's either a distrust of other men, which makes it difficult to come together in the system of support, or the idea that I have to go at it alone and I have to go at it by myself,
Yes.
which we know is just very harmful. That no man is an island. I have been pleasantly surprised in my work in fatherhood at the number of fathers, both veteran fathers and new fathers, who acknowledge the need for self-care and mental wellness,
Yes.
and also developing those skills of communication so that they can better communicate with their children. As our group progresses, we'll have these to discuss how important it is to be able to competently and compassionately communicate with their partners or with their children's mothers. But primarily what we're doing now is focusing on the relationship between the fathers and between the fathers and the children. And so I can attest, just from the work I've done in the community over the years and what has come up in our group thus far, that what you saw in the research with those 12 men in that 2020 study is something that the fathers are dealing with right now. And what they want to do is they want to figure out, we develop a system. And I brought this up in a group, how strong the Sister Girl Network is. How can we develop a system that is similar to that so that we can share how we're feeling and express our vulnerability in being men and fathers, especially for men of color who, for example, don't have the same opportunities as others to provide and protect. You know, we're not but a generation or two from last hired, first fired. And we've seen in this generation the instances of swatting. So just as a Black father myself with 2 daughters and a son, if someone called the police and said I was holding my children hostage, and I had a legally owned firearm with all the paperwork, and the police came into my house, there's still a chance that I'm going to die. And so I am constantly aware of my inability to protect my family the way that I want to. And in other communities, they're aware of their, what we'll call it, their limited purchasing power because of their income. And so they don't feel like they can provide. And so if we're telling men and fathers that your primary role is to protect and provide, and we've stripped away their ability to protect and provide, they no longer see themselves as competent men and fathers, which might cause an exodus from those relationships. And we know from our work that that exodus doesn't just mean separation and divorce. It means checking out, you know, possibly, you know, alcoholism or drugs, which affects the development and the health of the family. And so we're doing what we can to build these men and fathers up and help them see their sense of self-worth so they can continue to be productive, healthy members of the family.
A lot of very, very important work that's going on. And for all the gentlemen who are part of this group, kudos, because not everyone is willing to step up and say, you know, I would like to have some other guys around me. I would like to have somebody else hear what I have to say, to understand some of the obstacles that I'm facing as I am wanting to father to the best of my ability. So just for all the gentlemen who are in the group, kudos, major kudos. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and we'll probably talk more about this when you come back in the role of father in a couple of nights, along with another gentleman. What was new for me was the whole idea of fathers having postpartum depression. We talked about that so much, you know, in my education as a nurse and as a midwife. You're always looking for depression in the women, which is a normal hormonal change. And as I was looking at that topic, was introduced to the fact that, you know, men actually also have hormonal changes, and that it also facilitates them feeling depressed. And so that was news for me. And I'd be interested in knowing if this topic has come up with any of the fathers in any of the sessions that you have had with the dads. Be interesting to hear how they're feeling. I just also know I was with my pastor with his, he and his wife with their last child. And not only but the postpartum, but even what I brought up a little bit earlier, not even being recognized in the healthcare system. I mean, he's sitting right there in the room with his wife, with their baby, and the nurse is talking to, and the physician's talking to his wife. He's like, well, wait a minute, I'm here. I mean,
I'm here.
It was the desire to have consent forms completed. And he's like, he just took over the situation and said, we don't do this until we've sat down and reviewed this. We don't sign anything until we reviewed this. So I'd be interested in knowing if this topic has come up with the dads in your group about how they're feeling treated by the healthcare system when they're there trying to support their, the mother of their baby. I'd love to know what's come up.
So it's interesting to say that in one of our advertisements that we created for the group, I put on the flyer that we're here to support, to encourage, and to educate. And I use those letters intentionally because support, educate, and encourage, they spell C. And so I put on the flyer, that we see you. Okay. Fathers aren't. Now, I will say this, it is getting better. So I don't want to say that it's not getting better. There has been progress, cultural progress, in the way we have supported and encouraged fathers to take a more active role during the pregnancy and after the pregnancy. So I do want to acknowledge that. But, and we actually tackled this topic with our, in one of our Dads and Doulas session. We actually have a maternal health clinician for the Up Center, which is just awesome that her skill set, her training is in helping mothers deal with mental health issues while they're pregnant. And so she and our doula, Mrs. Carlos, facilitated one of the Dads and Doulas groups. And not only do we have the opportunity to talk about the postpartum recovery and the postpartum depression in both mom and dad, but also the instances of prenatal depression and depression during the pregnancy. And as you said, so, our mental makeup, a lot of it has to do with our environment. And so if you just, as an example, if you picture you and your partner, you're each other's center, and then the baby comes and the baby gets all of the attention. Well, the baby's in the womb. And so for a number of months, it's the baby's in the womb, and then the baby comes and it changes the family dynamic. Yes. And we have a man who culturally has not been trained on how to be a father or a parent. Then the anxiety and the fear come, the concerns about the ability to provide, the lack of sleep, which we know does a number on our mental health and our physical health, and all of those things come up. And so they talked about how important it was to identify what the symptoms of depression would be for the father, both during the pregnancy and after, and also solutions that the fathers could take part in so that they can get help and get better. And so, of course, we're going to be advocates of therapy. We're strong advocates of therapy, and the Up Center has great clinicians, but also creating a support system for themselves. The fathers had an opportunity to talk about that. And also in our group today, of course, things that you could do like working out and listening to music and taking time to enjoy nature. Those are kind of the traditional modalities that we use to help. But honestly, one of the most important is for the father to, as our name suggests, be engaged during the pregnancy, be fully engaged and present during labor and delivery, and then be engaged. So talking to the belly, reading to the child, singing to the child, being involved in the feeding. If mom is breastfeeding, how we can support mom so that we're engaged in that. Something that my supervisor has been supportive, having more co-ed baby showers, like all of these things from the beginning that allow the father to take his rightful place as a partner in this pregnancy. Those will help reduce the instances of postpartum depression, because his whole world hasn't changed overnight, that it's been a gradual, as mom is going through changes, as the baby is going through changes, the father is going through changes with them, and the father is eager and excited. Again, that skin to skin contact, the feeding, the changing, all of these things are important skills for the father to develop and engage in, so that they're bonding with the baby, so that the happy hormones that come from the baby's smile and the baby's touch and the baby's laugh, that the father can experience those things for his own mental health and for the health of the child through the health of the relationship. And so dads are definitely talking about how they feel, how they see themselves, what they could do better, what their regrets are, and getting those things out there in the open side by side with solutions, I think is a great way to start kind of turning this around and decreasing those numbers of postpartum depression in both mom and dad.
So you are doing incredible work. There's not a lot of programs for men. I'll just let you know that I'm aware of, and it's not to say I'm aware of everything. I'm not. I really am not. But when I heard about Dad2Dads, I was like, wow, this is really, really incredible. We are going to feature you back on Thursday night as a dad. And we're going to have a panel that night to just talk about fathers and pregnancy more from a father perspective. Also, tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about money in pregnancy. You brought up the idea that there's the concern sometimes that things come up and the ability to be able to support things that might happen.
Yes, ma'am.
But I am going to talk about that because there are oftentimes things that do happen that are out of the blue. We can't control what goes on during pregnancy. So that's a topic that I will discuss. I would very much appreciate being able to get topics from the men in the group on things that they would like to hear more on. This is a process that I've started, and we're in a kind of a challenge right now to do 30 days online, but I plan to continue this, and I want to do this. My whole goal of doing this whole YouTube series is to be able to empower childbearing families, men and women, to understand their medical, all the things going on medically, to be able to understand the healthcare system, how to function within that, to know that they have options and choices, to equip them so that they can really take control, not feel like, you're kind of whatever, but that you have the tools to be able to be more engaged with decision making, take control. So I want to thank you so much for the time that you've spent with us tonight. I've learned a lot. I mean, I have loads of questions. I would want to come down and visit with your group and hear more.
We would love to have you.
You're doing incredible work. So thank you so much for the time. I would like to say for those who are listening, that if you've liked what we have shared tonight, that you would subscribe to my channel. I will be coming out with an ebook, a free ebook at some point soon. And just hope that you will continue to join. There are a number of topics that I've already discussed from the 9th of July. And I hope that you would take the time to go back and look at some of those videos to see if it may provide you with some information that some of the men might be wanting to know. So, Mr. Jones, thank you so much again for your time.